This is CyberSound, your simplified and fundamentals-focused source for all things cybersecurity.
Welcome to CyberSound. I'm your host, Jason Pufall, joined in studio,
Yes.
right, because it's been variable a bit lately, Michael Grandy. And we've got Jeff Auker, the Director of Development Services for Hartford.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So you and I met, actually we met a couple times, but we talked about this maybe a month and a half ago when you gave a presentation about sort of AI and some of the activities that the City of Hartford is engaged in. So I think that that'll sort of serve as the basis.
Yep.
But, you know, honestly, I'd love to spend a little bit of time on, you know, as we get going here, a little bit on, you know, how's Hartford doing and, you know, what does the future look like? It's, I've been a Connecticut resident more or less forever, right? I spent some time out of state, but it's a city that has been really close to me. And you've sort of watched it, you know, sort of ebb and flow over the years, but it seems now there's a lot of growth and a lot of things happening.
Yep.
So I want to spend some time on, you know, what are the positive things in store for
Always
Hartford?
happy to tell that story.
Yeah, cool.
Always happy.
So, but you know, you had a lot of interesting stories. So, and so I was really excited to get you on because you not only had a perspective around, you know, here is how Hartford is starting to reposition itself in that sort of technology space, sort of commingled with some really interesting things about, you know, here's some buildings that we're dealing with, and here's some of those, you know, here's some of the things that make those buildings kind of spooky. I love that story. So, you know, whatever we can kind of diving into that would be great.
Great. Yeah. On the AI side, I mean, to step back. So I've been in the job for a little over a year now, year and a couple of weeks. You know, the mayor's been there for, you know, year and a half. And one of the first conversations we had as I got to know, I was running the Emphasis office downtown where we brought in about 1,400 people to create a tech center there. And Arunan and actually Mayor Bronin was there as well. We started talking about technology and the City of Hartford. Right, just step back and you think about it. You saw a lot of work going on, or there's a lot of great work going on down south around quantum. And, you know, in Yale and New Haven and the bioscience, life science they have down there, just an awesome setup there. But then when you step back and you go, okay, so Hartford should be participating in all this tech revolution and all these new jobs and these new skills and all these new capabilities that are coming out. But where? Like, what would be on brand for Hartford? AI, or I'm sorry, quantum seems a couple years out for us, right? We've got some potholes. We're real close to some financial issues a decade ago or less. Jumping into something that's that forward-looking without any sort of clear path, you know, right now. I mean, that's exactly why you have the universities and the work they're doing down there, you know, in New Haven. But we needed something more practical, something more blue-collar, something that had a quicker return and a much clearer, visible line from the investments and the work to the benefits of our residents and the corporations that are resident here and the small businesses trying to start up here. So AI came up pretty quickly, and it was less around shiny objects and what could Hartford do to, you know, to push this race quicker, and more about the workforce, more about the skills and the opportunities that Connecticut is infamous for not sharing with the inner city residents, right? I mean, when you get out of the suburbs, some of the best education, best opportunities in the world, of all time, right, of history. You get to the inner cities, especially in Hartford, those opportunities historically have not trickled down, have not gotten into, and have not been nurtured and built in the inner city. So you have generations of folks that aren't getting access to the technology skills that they need. And AI, we believe, is something fundamental. Right.
And you're missing out on potential talent. Right?
Yeah, potential talent. So now the big companies that are here are going, well, we need more people that can at least work with AI. Startups are going, we're not even consider a workforce that doesn't understand AI, it isn't digitally literate. So we had something to do here, and that's how we came up with this idea of an applied, workforce-driven, skills-driven, focused on the urban resident and the urban corporations and small businesses that we host here and that we serve. You know, how can we create a center like that? And that's how we got rolling.
Well, how does the sort of, you know, talk about it from a state funding perspective, obviously, to get some of these initiatives going. But, you know, you mentioned New Haven, but sort of public-private partnerships seem like they play a really big role long-term And what are some of the steps that you're taking towards building those relationships?
It's the only way it works.
Yeah.
I think Hartford as a city is doing a lot more to nurture kind of a mini or smaller version of like the Meds and Eds that Cleveland is famous for, but becoming a college town, giving folks those opportunities to, to learn more in Hartford, but also be connected to the town. So that's part of what we're trying to grow and trying to bring some of that back. In terms of, so when you take the schools, the industry, the state, the city, and you put all this together, and then the developers who, they're looking for the lanes given the interest rates and tariffs and everything out there to develop. But when you find one, they're going to go hard after it. So you're going to need all of those people in this environment to build something new, right? So what's been great about the state, they've been an absolutely necessary and great partner with us is, all right, so where we want to put this, for instance, if you just kind of take that story, the corner of Windsor Street, 150 Windsor. So as you go to the Yard Goat Stadium, here's how everybody you look out at the field, that big gray thing, that goes away.
Okay.
Right? We're taking that down. Go back, look at some of the current articles. That place is a public health disaster. It has been overrun with illegal activity as hard as we try to seal it up.
Sure.
It's just, it's sad and it needs to go away.
Yeah.
But that's expensive. So to take down that big of a building that's literally was built to survive bomb attacks.
Right. Well, you said it's full of water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the downstairs is like 2 stories of water that nobody knows what's in there. It kind of reminds me of
Last of Us.
I
Yeah, exactly.
was going to say the silo.
You're waiting for the one eye to come up.
Yeah.
So we need state help to take that down. We need private help from the private developers and the engineers and environmentalists to figure out the path to take that down, dispose of that water. Because you can't just let that go.
Right, pour it out.
So that in and of itself is going to be $10 million plus.
Wow.
That's got different layers of state funding in it, which would only make sense to the state is if we have to put something there on top of it.
Put back,
right?
Do you have a commitment now to actually take the building down?
Yes.
We do. Okay.
Yeah, we do. There's one last piece of it that we got to slide in, but we've been assured by the state that's in place.
Great.
Okay, so step one.
Yeah, so that comes down. And then to build the whole thing up, I think one of the biggest appeals to the state and others around this is the complex we're talking about will have an AI center, and that will be funded through these cluster funds that we're talking about. We're also bringing in Makerspace, which has a 28,000 square foot space they're looking to expand. They have some of their own donors, partners, all that. So, and a lot of private partners there. So that kind of brings them into the space. Then Randy Salvatore and RMS, who own the developer rights up there, are putting their own development money into garage parking and a hotel that's going to go there. Oh. So instead of looking at Yard Goat Stadium and seeing that gray thing, you're going to see a beautiful boutique hotel with a rooftop bar, mini Wrigley kind of feel.
So look over into the state. Yeah.
So the way this makes sense is the city puts the commitment in, puts the work in to work through all the details of just digging. We got great developers. We got great private partners, public partners. That's the only way this works.
That's great.
So you used the word blue collar a couple of minutes ago, which I don't think you often hear. Blue collar and AI tied together. So what's the vision for that workforce development concept around AI then?
Yeah. I mean, physically, visually, as you walk into this place, the first, as you walk in, it will be a clearly public community area. So all of the existing workforce programs from the Capital Area Tech programs, CWP, Department of Labor, we want to give them an instance in there.
That's great. And
if it's as simple as, hey, sign up here or click this, here's who to call, or classes going on, or they move their operations in over there. So we want this, when you walk in, you're going to see all the workforce opportunities. And now, like in my mind, we haven't worked through all this with everybody, but you look off to the right, say, and then there's the Makerspace bay, where you've got massive machines for wood, steel, everything you can fabricate, 3D printing, and then the AI sections that they're putting in there. So it feels inviting. I can go over there and start touching stuff. You have places to sign up.
And when you say say the you, right?
Yeah.
So when you said a second ago, a public space, the first thing that popped in my head is it's like the reimagining of the public library. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good way to describe it, but that's what it almost immediately felt like. Like, all right, no, people aren't going to libraries anymore to grab books, but would people use
a welcoming
this public
space that they can sort of have access to things
does
with,
Does that seem in any way representative of what you're thinking, or am I off?
It is, yeah. I want to be careful because I love what our libraries have been doing, and they become more digital, more AI, and that's what and more community. But I think I hadn't put that connection together. But yeah, that feel, you could walk in. there could be a group meeting there. There could be some people drinking coffee there.
Yeah.
There's some people talking about some new release of, grok, whatever.
Yeah.
And they, how do we distill this and what do we do that? And you just listen in on it. But that feel. And then there's places you can go to learn further, to do work, to create a startup. We're not going to be focused on incubation because there's some basic steps along the way, creating the workforce and the skills and all that to create credibility. But if you want to, we'll
That's
be there.
cool.
Are there any sort of, it sounds like a tremendous plan. Are there any like distinct needs that you're still pursuing right now that, I've got to get this in place. We've got to find this partnership, remaining items to plug in to make this a fully successful venture?
And I think, the way we've been approaching this, which is, it sounds subtle, but it's significantly different than other investments, is we're trying to just capitalize the building in the city and the state.
Right.
And then the money from corporations and universities and all is all going to go into programming.
Develop program,
not the capital. Like we want to capitalize on that there.
Yeah.
So the question, sorry.
Well, just like distinct needs that you still
distinct
have.
needs, yeah. So the corporate side.
Yeah.
Like we've got a lot of head nods, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Hey, we're there with you.
Yeah.
Hey, is the state signed yet? Not yet. Yeah,
We're coming.
Well, pencil you in for
Yeah,
next
yeah.
month. So there's a piece of, all the the words are great.
Sure.
So I think, solidifying that corporate sponsorship and it's really more alignment on our end. What are they trying to do and how do we make sure that we meet those needs? So we got to nail that down. We have some really, really strong potential partnerships on the tech side.
Okay.
In the paper the other day, we talked about Google and how they're really looking at this state as one of the few rational places in the world where you see people. As hard as the debate was over SB2 and the regulation of AI, those were rational debates on the future of AI in government, and you don't find that these days. So the tech partners are going to be a big deal. And then it's going to be a matter of tuning. So we have a lot of models that have been used before that we want to combine around engaging the universities in capstone projects.
Okay.
On work-based training. In Connecticut, that's got a lot of nuances and things to work through, just to make sure, everything, apprentices are certified and internships. We're going to do a lot of that. So there's a lot of spade work that's going to have to be done, I think, to take the vision, to make sure that we have the money, that the story we've been telling is backed up by the commitments. And then just doing that hard work of tying these technologies and possibilities to what is needed in the cities.
Right.
That's great.
Okay. So this is probably one of our least, specifically security focused podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, I got a little bit on that. I got to try, see what I can do for you.
Yeah, no. And honestly, I feel like we're morphing a little bit into just generally more business specific content anyway. But I'm interested in your perspective on where Hartford's going. So as somebody, I'm not down there all the time.
Yeah.
I'm reasonably close by, but driving through. Actually, my daughter's getting her driver's license, so she drove through Hartford the other day. So I had a little bit more of a chance to look around, and there's a lot of building. And what I've noticed more was there's a lot of residential apartment stuff, certainly around the yard goats. I had a meeting the other day at the University of Connecticut School of Business, and there's some smaller apartments that are there. Like you're just seeing building all over the place, and I think that's been one of the things that, frankly, Hartford has struggled with, right? Getting people to live downtown. It's always been considered somewhat of a commuter city. Now there's fewer commuters. How's Hartford dealing with that? And it felt, and it's interesting because it felt to me more vibrant than it has been in a way, in a different way. So I'm just kind of curious.
Love to hear that. Yeah. The residential building is obvious and expected. Every building that's going in before it's open is somewhere between 85 and 97% rented.
Before it's open.
Before it's open.
Okay.
We were just
Pretty substantial housing.
Yeah. So if you're a developer, the demand is there.
Yeah.
They're going to do it.
Okay.
The debate around the mix of the housing and affordable, working wage, all that, that's what we're in the thick of now because don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but Hartford, generally you target 10 to 20% affordable housing across your whole, Hartford's at 40%.
Okay.
And this is why that debate around the surrounding towns and, if they just take all the market rate and higher end stuff and then the all of the affordable housing gets pushed to one area, you're not getting the vibrancy. You're not supporting the businesses. Nobody wants to live like that. That's just a bad way of managing the city. So we're working through that and what those are. So we're being very specific within buildings, like how many are going to be affordable and at what level, how many be market rate, and we have a little more influence on that, I think, than in normal times because interest rates are high.
Right.
Commercial lending is tough to come by. Building
The
materials.
cost. I was going to say the cost of projects.
So now
escalating,
everything requires some sort of tax help,
Sure.
some sort of permitting help,
Right.
And that's where we can have a bit of a hand in guiding where we want it to go.
Right.
I mean, in the end, we're like, let the market do what the market does, but give it a little shove. But yeah, the response on these things at every level. I mean, downtown people are already coming up with, what if we took that building and so we're really happy about that, to show that people do want, when given the opportunity, people want to come to Hartford.
Well, and with UConn getting maybe more of a presence, I think I just read 200 beds coming. So you're actually getting some residential space for the students, which is huge, and obviously great for UConn. It continues to grow.
And then Hartford announced this week that they're going to create a $500,000 scholarship to house people in Hartford. That's the connection, right? That's the only way this is going to work. The corporates, the universities, the city, the state, the council, the neighborhoods. Got a lot of work to do.
But it does feel like it's trending in the right direction. And it's interesting your statement about the mix of residents. Because I was looking at these thinking like, all right, these are probably some reasonably high priced units.
Some of them are. Yeah. I mean, and part of it is the market rate apartments. I think we'll all feel that they're probably a little pricey for Hartford, but that's a matter of just supply and demand. Sure. That's the point of market rate. Right. What that's telling us is build more of these because you end up in a situation where the folks that can afford the higher end rents and purchases, if they can't find them, they're going to look for something else. And so that's going to displace the folks that can afford that level. And it goes down, and then that displaces in the end the folks at the basic level. And that's where you run into the problems with services and keeping the city vibrant.
Yeah. Well, and the investments now going into the stadium downtown. Right. So that'll be cool too.
Yeah, and hopefully some other things go into that stadium downtown. But stay tuned.
Okay. Anything else we want to?
Well, the one piece on security that I would validate.
Oh, there we go. So making a security.
Yeah, no, I can get that in there because I mean, obviously, it's. I mean, I think this is going to either. I have more faith in the actual security around AI than I do in our ability to convince the world that it's going to be secure. Right. I'm not a security guy by trade, but I kind of know enough to say that if you look at the blocking and the tackling, the weak spots do seem to be me using my daughter's birthday as my password, right? It's all the social engineering. So, but there is a stigma associated with it's doing things people aren't managing, the privacy and all that. So we have a real perception issue there and a real issue underneath that. So one of the things that came out of this debate around SB2 is we didn't get the regulation, or Senator Maroney and others didn't get the regulation on AI at the state level they wanted. There were programs that absolutely made sense in that bill, especially around a safety and security testing center.
Right.
Okay. So whether the results of a failed test are a civil fine, a criminal action, or just a C rating on your storefront, you still need to be able to test that.
Yep.
And I think that the biggest place we want to get into, I mean, there's plenty of people, Stanford, everywhere else, home and all that are digging into the core components like the LLMs and telling you how they benchmark and how secure they are. Where I get concerned is the as-is builds, right? So you start strapping one thing to another, and did you leave a leak?
Right. How do you control that?
Yeah, and how do you handle those transitions? If you have an RBAC set up, does your AI agent, get the same role you do?
Right.
Is that good or bad? I don't know. How do you handle that? So we want to set up this lab, and it looks like there's funding coming through appropriations for this, where we will be setting up with this group Kaya, the Connecticut Alliance, or Connecticut AI Alliance, first in the nation. All of the universities, higher ed institutions in the state have signed on to this as a way to guide the ethical and effective administration of AI, and they'd be the ones behind the safety center using NISF and other templates and standards for how do you benchmark these things for safety, for security, for privacy. And one thing clear, while we have so much data in this city around insurance and healthcare,
Right.
I think our value isn't like just tapping into that,
Sure.
right? Because that's not smart. But if there's ways we could create synthetic data sets out of that we could wall off, that the structure's the same and you could experiment with it based on everything we know in the city, that's interesting. But the whole point is to wall these things off, have a test bed for it, and really be on that edge. Because something like an agent, and then if the agent asks another agent that's not part of your chain to do something, does that take on your?
Yeah.
I don't know. And this is why I think you guys have some good job security.
Yeah, and so we're doing some work around agentic AI now, and I watched essentially what I would describe as 2 agentic AI models essentially battle it out. We were using it for communication, and we were being communicated back to with AI, and it just was a mess. And you realize, as good as it is, there's still a long way to go. So there's so much enthusiasm, and I think there's people who actually honestly feel like, I missed the boat. I haven't jumped on quickly enough, or I'm not using it enough. I mean, we're new. We're all new at this, and there's so much opportunity, so much more opportunity to learn how to do it, securely and privately, but then also figure out how to actually make legitimate use out of it, right? I mean, everybody understands the LMM and the ChatGPT stuff. There's so much more to it. So it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of the work that you're doing.
Great.
And one of the key aspects, it really feels like, is sort of integrating that workforce element into the training. For the next several years, I think the training element, sort of the companion of sort of stewardship of, we have a model, we're using a model, how do we deploy it? How does it make our business more efficient?
Right.
That's where the training needs to happen, where it's not happening necessarily at the university, college level, the training school level. It's not happening right now. So any help that, cities, states, government can provide in guiding that training would be helpful for the workforce.
And we're looking to create a utility where that training can go on and take place, because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a really big deal.
Cool.
That's great. Very exciting stuff.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, this is great. And I'm excited to see where things go.
Yeah.
Maybe someday I'd like to get in that building and see the water.
Me too. Well, you want to?
I'm passing on the water.
No,
You guys
we
can
can
go down
get
there.
you.
I'm
there.
so intrigued by that. I got to tell you.
It's funny, like from the outside you look at it and you go, well, that's
Just
just
a
a
building.
solidly built building, because it was a check cashing
It's a
center.
reservoir.
And you're like, okay, well, you've got to be able to do something with it. The moment you get inside, you're like,
Yeah, there's
back
nothing
out.
there.
This needs to go away.
And those places in the world exist, right? But you probably do drive by them all the time.
Yeah. And this one, but now you'll actually have something to look at when you look out.
Very exciting.
That's great. Well, hey, I appreciate you joining.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
I think it sounds like we might have a discussion or two. In the
A little
future. You're gonna
follow-up,
talk
I think.
about-
Yeah,
so
for sure.
We'll go from there.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thanks. And of course, as always, if anybody's enthusiastic about, maybe we'll say enthusiastic about Connecticut and Hartford and where we're going, shoot us questions. We can certainly redirect them. And, as we get more information about all the work that you're doing, we'll be sure to pass it on.
Come back anytime.
Cool.
Great.
Thanks,
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, thanks, everybody.
We'd love to hear your feedback. Feel free to get in touch at Vancord on LinkedIn. And remember, stay vigilant, stay resilient. This has been CyberSound.